So we'll just start with an acknowledgement of country. I am on Darug land, and we're all coming from different lands across Sydney, probably New South Wales. And I'd like to pay my respect to any First Nations people in the meeting and welcome any First Nations guests and other guests to the meeting. Okay, so what I'd like to do is we'll start with having a look at managing your individual research profiles, how you can edit those to sort of get maximum impact and maximum information about yourself and your research interests. And then we'll look at the second part of the platform, which is where you store all your research outputs and how to upload them there and make them visible. And then there's a couple of other functions that you can do within the repository, which are such things as creating a CV or entering events and activities that you go to, and we'll have a look at those as well. And then, of course, how to get support if you need it after today's presentation. Okay, so as you know, we did have the old repository, which was called Research Direct, and now we've moved to the new Research Profiles and Repository platform. It's a bit of a mouthful. And this is really to showcase Western Sydney University research output. So that is the purpose of the platform. So if you're not seeing any pre-WSU publications that you have not there, we'll talk about how you can import those in the demonstration part, okay? So the focus at the moment is to highlight that WSU research output, okay? But not to say you can't include your other research there. We'll do that as well. So this is the address, and we'll go in there in a second. And the first part of the platform is your research profile, and that will contain all of your personal information. And so that'll be your personal information, your curriculum areas, your organisational affiliation, which will be WSU, education qualifications, and then some keywords, or FOR and FOR codes, so people can search and find you under your research areas. So some of that information has been migrated directly from our WSU HR system. So you might see that you can't change it. So that'll be your title. Actually, I think you might be able to change your title, not sure, but your name, staff ID, and I think also your qualifications will also, and your dates of employment. So those things, if they're there and they're not correct, please submit a HR inquiry form, and I'll provide you with this presentation as well afterwards, which has got all the links. Well, you guys probably know where you can see the HR ticket anyway, but if you want me to change those, we will need to go through HR. Okay, so on your research profile, it's really good to use some of the functionality that's built into the new platform to highlight your research interests and areas. So you can add a bit of a biography, you can add previous positions that you might have held, a bit of a description about your research, and there's also a section there that you can add links to say some of your personal pages, maybe your LinkedIn page or your Google Scholar profile, things like that. So that can all enhance your profile and help people to find what you're doing, what you're working on, and connect with you if they want to. Okay, a profile photo is nice. We'll go through how to do that. The important thing is to authenticate your ORCID ID and also register your Scopus and Web of Science ID. And what you can do within the platform is turn on automated search for these three platforms so that anything that's indexed within ORCID, Web of Science, or Scopus can be automatically imported into your profile. I'll show you how to do that in a second. If you haven't got these researcher IDs, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to talk you through how to do those. But it is important to link them here to your profile. once you do link them, you'll get something that's going to look like this. Under the research section, research output section, you'll see here candidates from Scopus, candidates from ORCID, candidates from Web of Science. This is where these systems are talking to our repository and are importing anything that's connected to your name or your researcher ID. You can choose then to import it or remove it if it's a duplicate, okay? Because most of them will already be here, but there might be others that we want to include. So that's a really important part, I think, of connecting our repository to those databases. Okay, we've talked about adding links and keywords. There's also a section in there which is called your fingerprint. And if you turn that fingerprint on, that will automatically derive specific subject areas based on your research. So you don't have to then enter your own keywords, but you can do both. But that fingerprint is also a nice little feature that we can have and use. And of course, the FOR codes as well. Okay, it also does highlight and demonstrate SDG goals. These are automatically populated, but you are able to edit and remove them if they're not relevant. And we do have a research profile and a support request form, which if you have any questions about that, you can submit if any of those are incorrect. So mostly when you upload your publications, they're probably going to be public, no restrictions, so that they can be viewed on your profile. However, just a note that if you are working on anything that is confidential, you can actually select that option as well. And that way it is not publicly visible. Okay, so there are going to be some cases that you might want to manually add some records to your profile. And that is where they are not indexed in those key databases that we spoke about. And if it's maybe a non-traditional research output that is not considered a scholarly work and therefore not indexed in those databases, you might want to manually enter those records, and you can do that. That is fine. If you do need a publication that's not appearing there to appear there urgently, you can add it manually as well or import it, say from EndNote, and just let us know so that we can validate it quickly so that it appears on your profile. So all research outputs, so whether you link to Scopus, Web of Science, ORCID, and you import those records, and remember how I showed you select import and it will come through, it's still not going to appear publicly until it's validated by our research services team. So whilst you've done that part, your part, which is to import it, we're still going to validate it. And so give that a few days for that to happen, and then it should appear on your public profile. If you are publishing open access, if there are any embargoes on that, we will apply the embargo period and we'll make it openly accessible once that period has completed. So you don't need to worry too much about that. If it's fully open access, it'll just be, the link will be there available for people to access it that way. Okay, in terms of the field of research codes that you can add to your profile, you can add up to 3 and they've got it equal to 100%. So you can add them all yourself. It's like the ones that apply mostly to your research. And data sets can also be included as separate research outputs. If you already had data sets archived with the library, these will automatically be included and migrate over to the new system. And we also will be harvesting any new data sets from those open repositories as well and other university repositories. If you have a new data set that you want to include in the repository, you can use this form here to contact our library data research consultant. So that'll be for future ones. Okay, so there are other type of content you can also add in here to enhance your profile as well as your research output. So you can include conferences, events that you're going to. You can also include press or media publications or interviews that you might be doing. I know other people contribute to the conversation, for example, so there is a section there that you can include that information and link to it as well. Prizes, awards, anything like that. It's all good to have there, especially in those cases for promotion and application. Okay, we spoke about those. This is actually where your subjects are for your subjects that you're teaching at WSU. So there is a section there for that. It's not currently linked to the handbook, but we would encourage you, if you could, put it in the format that it does appear in the handbook, just for consistency. So include the code number or ID code and subject name with the description from the handbook entry. And then just work through the sections, what level it is, etc., what your role is. Okay, so there is also another section there which includes projects. This is automatically populated from data from external Western Sydney sources, so you don't add your own content here, but it includes all of these types of projects, whether they're successful, finished, active, but it does exclude pre-award projects and confidential projects. Okay, and a nice little function that it's got. Once you've gone to all that trouble to put all that information in your profile, you can actually use it to create your own CV. And you can publish that CV on your profile, or you can download it to save and have it for your own personal use as well. So that's a really handy little feature. These are all our further support links, which you'll have access to after this. Okay, so I'm just going to stop sharing. Does anyone just have any questions at this point?
Sandy, could I just ask you to start with? So the process that we've known for a while is that we are entering, as publications come out, we enter them into that Research Direct portal, and that goes to the library then to be kind of confirmed as a, as an ERA eligible publication output, and then they appear automatically on our profile. So is that Research Direct repository no longer the way in which this is done, or is there some version of that that's retained?
That's correct. So, Christine, that's what I understand. We're not using Research Direct anymore.
No, we're not. Anything that has been in Research Direct up until the cutoff point, which I think was the 18th of November, October. That's all across. Yeah, that's all across now. Alison, was it Alison? I think I didn't see who was.
Yeah, thank you.
Yes. That's all across. The only things that are not there now are a couple of NTROs and a few other media bits and pieces. So once our information resources team accept that it's part of the profile, then yes, it goes in. The other thing that you might want to do, if for some reason something isn't included in our profile, your ORCID, have that up to date, absolutely. Our profiler does pull from ORCID, but it will not pull things back. So when when you move institutions, it's your ORCID that will be your most complete data set.
Yeah, I'd say for most people in our school, ORCID's the authoritative source of all of our publications rather than any of these citation metric entities. So one thing a couple of us figured out about that too is if you've had an ORCID profile for a long time and you had your old staff profile link in there, you actually need to replace that with the link to your new Pure profile in order to get that intercalation between the two entities happening. So yeah, I found that my Pure profile wasn't picking up a lot of my entries in ORCID. Even though everything's there, I couldn't understand why it wasn't just migrating across when I authenticated it. But then when I put the profile link from my Pure profile into my ORCID profile, then that communication happened. So just a
Yeah.
weird thing, but
Yeah, that's a really good point. Yeah, good to note. Yeah. So that's right. You do need to include your new profile link in Orchid. So that's great.
So to go back to Alison's original question, can you clarify where we have to enter data about new publications and what we have to submit to where? Because I'm not at all clear about that from that explanation.
yes, Simon, I would say probably the easiest thing is to make sure everything's in your Orchid profile. And then
Yeah. Put in your, yeah, exactly. Put in your Orchid profile, put your new research profiles and repositories link into Orchid, update that. And then once you do that, I'm going to show the demonstration now how you add your research outputs. Okay, so we're not using Research Direct anymore. All the research outputs will now be coming through to this new repository.
What about manuscripts of accepted manuscripts?
You can put that in. I think it was one of the slides that we had, Sandy.
Yeah, I think you did do
Yeah.
that.
So you put that one in manually, and Sandy, when she opens up now, as she's going to do, she can show you, Simon, where you put in different things. And so once you hit submit for validation, it comes off your profile until our information resources staff verify it, and then it can appear publicly. So it will disappear for a little while. Basically, we pull from Web of Science and Scopus. There are later on, I think we might try and actually pull from other sources, but there are key sources at the moment and from your Orchid profile. So anything else, a little bit of media may go in as well, but just keep an eye on the media and the NTROs. You'll have to put those in manually, and Sandy's about to show you how to do that.
Yeah, thanks, Christine. Okay, so if you want to follow along, feel free to do so. So it's research.westernsydney.edu.au. And what I might do is just show a quick example of one of our researchers that have sort of set up their profile pretty well, just so you can see all the different features once you do it in your own. So we've got one of our researchers here. You can see that their title, they're linked to their school, they're linked to their Orchid. They've also included links to all their other researcher profiles like Google. Contact them and their email. You can see here their auto-generated fingerprint from the system based on their research outputs. And under the overview, you've got the UN Sustainable Development Goals, any related links, their quals. You can look at the researcher full fingerprint. Yeah. Their network. So you can see that the new system is drawing all this information from the data that you're entering into it, which can make it really helpful for people to understand your research and what you're doing. Of course, all your research outputs will be there, any projects that you're working on and activities.
Is there anywhere the summary that's used to calculate our workloads, though? I had a good look around the system the other day and was overwhelmed with the amount of information that was there, and none of it was useful to me but for that purpose. Indeed, the displays of articles were out of order and all sorts of things, so it was actually quite difficult to get anything for that sort of purpose out of it. And I assume there's a button somewhere.
It doesn't show that, but the old research portal, that is still there. That shows your HDR workloads and things like that. So if that's what you're looking for, you can still access it through the research portal. Not Research Direct, but the research portal. The link is there, I think, in the presentation as well. If it's not, I'll include it. I think maybe, was that what you were after?
Yeah, but that is actually,
HDR supervision,
that portal's frozen as of October, right? So there's nothing more recent that can be added to it.
That's the research portal, not Research Direct.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, no, I'm specifically thinking about the summary that says you produce X number of outputs in.
Yeah, that's
in
the
the
research portal. Yeah.
It's still there. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So you can still access that information, but not through here. Okay, so that's sort of what a completed profile is going to look like once you've included everything there. And you can see under all of the research outputs, it also includes some altmetrics as well. And you can link to the articles themselves. Okay, so what to do to amend our own research profiles? I'm going to go into mine, so just select the login. Okay, so once you do that, you start by editing your profile. So these are all the personal fields, the metadata about you and your work. And this is where you can add, like I said, some of these are populated from HR, but you can add your photo. I'd encourage you to do that. When you go in to add a photo, select it from your device, from your computer, and save it there. Select create, but always make sure that you save it here. I've had a few people selecting create and it's not saving because you actually need to save it twice. So you need to create and then save for it to then go into your record. The other thing is this is where you add your ORCID IDs and your other researcher IDs. So just select Add ID, select the type of ID you want to add, and select Verified and Create. Again, you need to save any changes that you make to this profile page down the bottom.
Oh, one thing I noticed too with uploading photos, in that box, the pop-up when you go to upload a photo, there's a drop-down box.
Yes.
The default is no category. You actually have to make it portrait.
That's right.
Yeah, otherwise it won't upload it. It's
right. That's what I just say back. Yes, select portrait, select your file, select portrait, create, and then save as well down the bottom. Oh, mine's gone green. Oops. Okay, here we go. And then select save. Correct. Yes, and then you've got your links here. So if you want to link out to any of your personal pages, oh, it's going very slow. You go out and go back. Oh, is anyone else having problems? Oh, here we go. You can add links. Yep. So this is where you can add link to Facebook page, your LinkedIn page, Google Scholar page, for example, and create that link. And people can then link out from your profile to that page.
Yeah, it's probably also helpful if we could just show how if you click on publications in the profile, it takes you into the profile page where you can actually add things.
Add a publication. Okay. Yeah. Okay. I can skip to that if you'd like.
I think that might be the burning question a lot of people have.
Okay. So to add our publication, we need to go to add content. Yeah. And this is where you can see all the different types of entries that you can enter into your profile. Or you can go under research output. Oh, sorry. I'll create from template, and these are your types of publications as well. So if you do have something which is maybe a non-traditional research output, you could go under creative works and select the type of work and enter that manually. So for example, if we go into a textual work, you just need to go in, fill all the fields out, publication dates, titles, publisher, etc. Subject areas, if you know them.
What I've noticed is that quite a lot of publications. When you go to do this, you sort of add it. You think, oh, it's not in my profile. I'll add it manually. As you start to fill this out, it detects the publication if it's founded in ORCID or some other profile, and then asks you, is it to confirm if it's a duplicate.
Okay.
So it actually, I'd just like to reassure people, you're probably not going to have to manually enter all this information. You'll probably find as you begin to enter it that it will trigger the recognition of the existing entry that it has stored somewhere.
So
I don't know why it
wonder-
doesn't just put it there in the first place, but
Or Alison, I wonder if you've got yourself set up under profile, under this automated search. Have you got these all turned on? Because if you've got these turned on, that's where it's going to harvest your records from. So maybe it's identifying them and they're sitting there waiting for you to import them into your record.
yeah, no, it's all activated.
It's all on. So that's maybe why it's identifying what you're typing already, I wonder. So then,
Alison, are they earlier documents than, say, the last 5 years that you're finding, you're putting
No,
in
not
yourself?
necessarily. No, it's a mix.
Okay, interesting. I can't give you an answer, but I know that was one thing that they were doing where they were just starting with the more recent documents.
Yeah, certainly older
Mm.
things would have to be triggered in that way, won't they?
Yeah, and also too at the bottom of the table.
Yes, that potential duplicate. That's the thing.
That's it. At the bottom, though, don't forget you can do click for validation, or if you're not finished, if you've been interrupted part way through, you can actually save that, not send it for validation. This is a new slide, so I'm really interested in this one too, Sandy.
yeah, I'm just wondering if, because Alison's turned on, like what we were saying, she's turned on her automated searching here. Once you do that, under your research output tab, you're going to see candidates sitting there waiting for you to import. So I wonder if it's picking up from those sitting there waiting for you to import them already. And maybe that's why. Can you see anything under research output, candidates waiting to come over from ORCID or anything like that?
I'm actually seeing all of the publications that are in there already. They're kind of fully displayed, but they're things I've already sent for approval. So I might not be good. I might be done. I might actually have everything there. So maybe
So you haven't got anything that says candidates in Scopus or candidates?
No, I've kind of gone through all.
They're all gone. Okay, all right. So that's where you can import them without having to manually enter them.
Yeah.
That's coming back to was it Simon that had asked that question? He wasn't quite clear on it.
And that should be the case for NTROs that have already been verified by the library, right? That were previously entered and confirmed as ERA eligible. Is there no reason why that would be in a different categories? Yeah.
No, they should already come across because everything's come across from the old system if they were already validated.
Yeah, but I couldn't work out where they go. There's not anything there for data sets or databases in that set of categories, whereas previously we just recorded it as creative work, but that didn't seem to be a function under that when I looked.
So a database that you've created?
Yeah, data sets is a category in the view that I have.
Data sets are a separate category, Simon, so they're not.
Yeah, they used to be under creative outputs, though, so I found that very confusing when I first entered it. I can't follow this. You're going far too fast and the screen's too small. I've got multiple visual issues on screen and I don't want to take up other people's time. But I think I'm going to need written instructions and quite a lot of help over this. So I'm probably going to duck out because all I'm getting is a headache from it. So
I'm sorry, Simon.
No, it's not your fault that I have some visual difficulties, but I can't.
Simon, would you like to just book an appointment with me in your calendar and we can work through yours one-on-one?
Yeah, no, that would make sense.
Yeah, just go ahead. Book a half an hour appointment or an hour and we can just go through it.
Yeah.
Brilliant, Cecilia. Yeah, sorry, I'm jumping a bit all over the place.
I think lots of people have lots of questions, including me, and that probably doesn't help everyone else, which is one reason I think I should duck out.
Right. Well, look, that goes for everybody. If anyone needs help after this, feel free to book a time in the calendar. I'm happy to sort of talk through some of individual issues as well if we can't get to them here. So did anyone else have questions before I keep going on with the research output? Yeah. Kate.
Andy, I was going to say I've got half a dozen, but some of them are quite generic because I'm here kind of representing a lot of people who work in the nitro space. So perhaps I'll just hold until the very end of your presentation, but just to say this is wonderful and lots of enthusiasm for knowing all of this. So I'll come back at the end. Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks.
No problem. Okay. So what we were saying really is that under your profile, you can set up that automated search so that they will automatically import for you. And then you should see when you go into add content under your research output, those fields that I said before, import contributions from Scopus, contributions from ORCID. They're not showing in mine because I'm not a researcher, but it's going to look like what was on this slide here. So candidates in Scopus, candidates in ORCID. So if you set up that automated search, you won't have to manually type in everything yourself. Otherwise, if you decide that you're going to manually enter anything, maybe you need it sooner because you're doing a promotion application or a grant application, you can then go through and add it yourself manually, depending on what type of publication it is. Just work through it. So if it's an article, just complete everything. And then just make sure you submit for approval down the bottom. Or you can keep it.
Also important, I think, for most of what people be putting in there to tick the peer review button, because the default is it treats everything as not peer reviewed.
Okay, so if it is peer reviewed, yeah, just select peer review up the top. I wasn't going to go through all the fields. Let me just think what else. So are there any particular problems that people have been having when they're trying to add their content as well?
Sandy, I've had an issue with entering some content a fortnight ago, which isn't yet appearing on the public profile. But if I'm in my part of the profile where I edit and I search those titles, they do appear showing when I put that in. Is that because they're still in the process of being validated by the library?
Yeah, that's right. So although if you've done it a few weeks ago, I think they probably should have been done by now. So if you don't mind just sending me an email and letting me know, if you can let me know, then I can chase them up and make sure that, get that done a bit quicker.
Fantastic. I will do. Thank you.
You should see them under, I think again under here, you should be able to see them as showing waiting approval as well. There is a field there for it. It's not going to show for me because I don't have any. But under this research output, maybe it's under activity. No. Under research output, can we see a field that says awaiting approval or anything like that?
What I can see under those, if I search the titles when I'm in my own repository area, I see if I click through to those that are listed, right at the bottom I see status, and there are two statuses. One is entry in progress and one is submit for approval. And that's all I can see. And they've already been submitted for approval. So that's all it's showing.
Can you click on submit for approval?
No, because it's already been done. So I did it
done
ago, but it's just still showing a grayed out bar saying the two status options are in progress or submit for approval. And it's neither of those can be selected after it's been selected. So it's sort of old. I can see it all in the repository. It's not on my public profile. Yeah.
Okay. Just send me a screenshot.
I'll do that.
And then I'll chase that up for you.
Wonderful. Thank you.
Okay. So also from here, from under add content, this is where you can also add any activities that you might be doing. So attending conferences, events, hosting academics, etc. For example, peer review and editorial work, talks and presentations. Under the thesis external supervisor, this is only external WSU students. So internal HDR supervision will continue to be shown under our existing research portal. So they won't be shown here. This is if you are being an external supervisor, you can add that information here. This is where I spoke about you can add the press and media engagement and any prizes that you might have received as well under here. And this is where under subject, this is if, where you're teaching a subject at Western. So again, like I mentioned before in the presentation, if you could use the details from the handbook, the consistency, put the subject code and name and a description from the handbook of the subject, and then you can go in, fill out the details, whether it's postgrad, undergrad, what your role is, and then make sure you save those details so that's added to your profile as well. Western Sydney University thesis. I think these ones will be imported from the ones that you've already, I think these are the ones that are already graduated. Are these your own, Christine? I'm not quite sure. But they're not the current students that you're supervising. I definitely know that.
They're your own if you've done one outside of Western Sydney.
Okay.
I think
that is
the
your
one.
own. That's
Yes.
your okay.
There's something about the on the home pages of the on the home staff pages there is an H-index box that appears that is provided by Scopus. There are a lot of people in the humanities and absolutely for people in creative practices. Those are quite embarrassing. They make us look terrible. So they work really well for people in the sciences. We have spectacular citations. But Scopus only detects like somewhere between 30 and 50% of publications for a lot of people in our disciplines. And so those citation data is way lower than what we get through, say, Google Scholar. And I've looked around at other universities who are using Pure, and their humanities scholars seem to have the option to not display that H-index and to just show the graph that has the research activity per year. So that's all you see on their profile. Yeah, so you see that bottom part, but you don't see the H-index citation score and H-index score.
Okay. Look, that's an inquiry that I could make with our research team. And I can find out a bit more about it if you'd like, Alison.
Yeah, that would be great. Yeah, I'd be interested to.
I'll have to get back to you on that one, whether that can be made optional.
Another thing too, when you go into your edit profile under the outputs that Sandy showed you where you tick on Scopus and you tick on Web of Science, that option there also gives you space if you have published under a different version or another name. That may also help pick up a few more. But because Tanya's saying that Scopus isn't picking up most of her citations. So if you're Sandy, if you're concerned, maybe sorry, Tanya, maybe Sandy can investigate for you. I've just asked Tanya to send you an email, Sandy, about her citation she's got a question on.
Okay.
Yes, exactly there. Yes, so you can go in and add name variant. That's the one. That might help.
Yes, that's right.
helps a bit, but yeah, this is a known problem that Scopus doesn't identify citations for most humanities and social science disciplines.
Right. Yeah. Well, we can ask about that. It's a good question. I'll get back to you on that one. However, remember I mentioned that you can link to Google Scholar profile page as well. So that could help too if you include that link.
Yeah, it seems to just be a link. It doesn't seem
It's a
to
link,
take
yeah.
the data from
No, it's a
Google.
link.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you. So and the last thing I'll just show you is that you can actually create a CV from the information in your profile. So this is a handy little feature, so you can use it for a public CV or your own to download. Just select the fields that you want to include and create. It will create the CV for you, and then you can download it and save it for yourself, or you can have it as a link that'll be over here on your profile if you make it public. Oh, I'm just wondering, just with some of those that had mentioned you've got some outstanding research outputs that still haven't appeared, do you have anything appearing under this notification bell here?
No, not sorry, Kate. We're not so far, Kate.
Yeah, just wondering. That's fine. Yep, just thought maybe something was sitting there. So if there are any notifications, they'll come through here that you might need to also update. So it's good to check that. If you do need further help, just come over to the help button. The profile editor help will link to our library guide, which is on the repository. So we'll help you with populating all the fields within the repository and any questions you might have. Adding your researcher IDs, for example, managing your research outputs. And this is our library research team help desk email as well. But I'm happy for you to filter anything through me or use the request form, which would be good to do. That was probably everything I was going to go through. I'm just happy to have time for questions as well. And just stop sharing. Yeah, Charles.
Thank you. That was really, really helpful. And it looks like mine's getting magically populated. I don't know how. It's happening that most of the stuff I've published is appearing there slowly. But I wonder, a quick question is just about the press and media section. So there's the academic publications that get picked up by Scopus and somehow magically come up, but they're not going to, anything we publish in press and media, I think we're going to have to add manually, and somehow it's going to be confirmed by somebody. And they're able to complicate a process, so you don't have to do it now, but is there a sort of 3-step process to how we would do that?
Yeah, it's pretty simple. So just from over here, under add content.
Oh, slow down. Hit me off.
Yes, so log in.
Well, I'm on I'm coming in now. I'm edit profile. And now what I see is metadata, associated user, automated search, relations, fingerprints.
Are you under here, add content?
I am not under add content, and that is. Oh yeah, add content. Got it.
Over there. You can keep scrolling across, and you should find press media.
Okay, that's all I need to know.
And just go and until good.
Got it. Yeah, everything else looks strict. Okay, thank you. I understand now.
No
Yeah.
problem. Kate. Oh, sorry, Kate, I can't hear you.
Sorry, my mistake. I love that after so many years of Zoom, we haven't automated yet, so some of us still talk without our mic on. I'm thinking about that area of activities and the tie to also projects that are grant tied. Is it correct that your projects, it seems to only record those that have been accepted by the Research Office as being externally grant tied? They seem to be the projects that are appearing there. So is that correct?
I think that's right. Is that right, Christine?
Yes, as far as I know, if you have any particular questions, Kate, you can fill out the Western Hour ticket. They go straight to Gary Long in Research Office, and he can help resolve the questions that you have in that area.
Yeah, thank you. What I was wondering, Christine and Sandy, was whether that might be a field in which to add. Quite a number of us do community-facing research or projects that are in partnership with other spaces, and they may not have a Cat 1 to 4 designation as ERA recognised grant funding, or they may be internally seed funded. But I think they're really interesting in terms of researcher profile. So I've been looking at where do we plot them so people know it's not just the grant funded work that's going ahead, and that would speak for a bunch of colleagues. So I wondered if activities, the only field I could see when Sandy went through now was other, and I thought, well, perhaps it's worth scooting around in there. Does that sound useful data to capture?
I think so. So I think you can put that under other. There's also research report.
So it's more just projects or partnerships that aren't, that are more about in-kind exchanges, or that are networks, research networks that are being built, or even mentoring pathways that have been established. They don't seem visible, especially if it's a tie to grant funding. So I wonder how we might add those. But
You've got here under, if it is tied to funding, under research report, it does have,
I think it's affiliation or something, isn't it? Down further.
yeah, it has.
Where is it? Funding text on
I think I've gone past it.
maybe.
I might scoot round in that myself and just come back to you if I can't find it, because that's a very niche question. The other question I had, is it the case that you no longer specifically upload a research impact statement as in the old repository for NitroWorks? That seemed to be the case when I went in and had a look. Is that still the case, or is there still a field called research impact statement? Because ERA is no longer using that as a standard, I did wonder if they need to be done, or if the abstract for the research takes the place of that in the new system. That's caused a lot of anxiety in the past, so it'd be great to get a clarity on that.
I haven't heard that anyone has to do a research statement. Have you, Christine?
Not specifically any lately. That might be another Gary Long question, Kate.
I'll go back to Gary on that one and the project. A couple more, but they're reasonably swift, if I may. One is to do with the Sustainable Development Goals. Are they accepted as stated by the researcher, or are they vetted in some way? We've had a couple of situations where, for example, a researcher said, I feel like this aligns with social inclusion, and it's not been accepted at a research impact level, and perhaps education has seen. But for things like practice-led research or creative research, we feel like social inclusion is a really strong fit to a lot of that work. So do we just pop those in ourselves, or are they vetted or tied to particular other data, I guess?
Yeah, so
I think the SDGs, as far as I know, they are auto-populated, but you do have the ability to edit them.
Yeah.
Yes. I think it's in.
you should be able to add them. Oh,
That's not the one, I don't think. Hold on. I'm just trying to find it myself.
Okay, great. And do they go straight through, Christine? If you pop one in, they're just accepted as a researcher states them, or are they?
I believe so. And you have to put in, can you click on one, Sandy, and see what happens? Just click on that. The changes you have made to the queue will be auto-populated to other contents. So there is something that will happen. But I think, have a look through, but you can make some amendments. And that's the same with the fingerprints. You can turn them on and off and delete bits and pieces and etc. as well to allow it to be more. Mm-hmm.
Yep, that's really useful. And I think there's only one other query. No, I think that might be all, because some of them I'll take up with you in other ways. So thank you so much.
Okay, no problem, Kate.
It's an unwieldy beast in a way.
But it is.
It does capture
still
really,
see.
it captures good data though that wasn't really available in any other way previously. So we can all see the benefits, but it's just hurting ourselves toward them. Thank you.
It's a
And actually, Tanya's a really interesting question. Yes, Tanya's one about the network, the mapping was very interesting to Sandy. I've got that in the chat.
I haven't
No,
been able to look
that's
at the
fine.
chat.
No, that's fine because when we save, the chat will save too, and we'll go back and have a look at that one.
All right.
Just what can be turned on and off. We could go through and I don't know whether the network is available to be for the visibility, which is down at the end of edit profile for one under display. Not display. No, that's the wrong one. I'm in the wrong place. Where is it? Visibility, I think, is right down the bottom of your edit profile.
Yeah.
Right down the bottom under accepting HR candidates, there is a visibility option there. Now that controls your whole profile. However, you can go in to individual records, if you've got some sensitive data sets, example, and you can turn them on and off as well. It's the same categories. So you can control what you are allowing the public to see of your work.
That's good to know.
Yes, I've almost forgot that myself.
And don't forget anything that you change on this page, you must save down the bottom.
Yeah.
Otherwise it won't save.
Yes, but I do understand, especially with your disciplines, that you're not getting as accurate H indexes, etc. I understand that, and I'm sorry.
Yeah.
But I think it might be worth turning off, I think. So, Kate, you were mentioning. So there might be a few edits that we can find out about with the project team that we have access to, and they can help as well.
We will. We'll collect all the questions from the chat, from what's been given today, and what I'll do is I'll put a little Q&A sheet back to everyone, and that way everyone will have the answers from everything that was asked today.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, Sandy. So that thing about switching off the H index graph, that it is clearly possible because we've seen other people at other institutions display it in that way. It's just we're not sure if it's something we can do individually through our profiles or if it has to be done at some collective level.
Well, we haven't seen that you can switch it off through our back-end function or your back-end functions. So it's probably something we'd have to ask the vendor to provide us an option for.
Right.
Let me see what I can find out about that.
Thanks.
Yeah. Were there any other questions?
I think Melissa Dietz has a question. She's got a qualification incorrect, but can't see how to edit or fix it.
Sorry, that was just such a little question. I thought you could get to it.
No, I've got that problem too.
So that one comes directly over from HR. So you'll need to put in the HR inquiry form
Okay.
for them to fix that up. Then that will migrate over.
Well, embarrassing. That's been incorrect for about 15 years.
Now's the time. Melissa, now's the time.
Yeah, I could have said too that if someone has a secondment into a role, it's defaulting to that as their position rather than their substantive position. And is that something you've heard before? It seems no.
But is that what is happening?
Yeah. The default is it's some the
Current
secondment
secondment.
roles. Yeah, it's what they show as your title.
Yeah. So I think there was a place there to put your previous position as well.
There
Maybe they
is.
can go in and manually enter it.
Yeah, it might also have an HR finger in that pie, but
Maybe.
yeah.
I don't know if you go in as the right.
There's also positions outside of the institution.
An option.
So that's another option as well. But yes, I think organisational affiliation. See, I'm not set up properly in this, but you might see a little bit different. So I'm not going to show you mine. But yeah, it's an HR. It's a general inquiry, I think, is the correct ticket name.
Yeah.
Could I ask one more nitro question, Sandy? Sorry, you're just looking. Yeah, it's to do with those for creative works. We've had a number of colleagues in our research committee come with works that they have assigned in the repository as one thing, and then the library have thought that they are another, and we've then adjudicated that in the research committee in some way. So is it still a case that the library will reassign a category demarcation if they disagree? Say somebody puts in a book review and says it's an article, or if someone puts in a book and it's seen as an NTRO that's not a book. Is the library the first point of decision there, or do we still need to do that as a research committee?
So if someone's manually entering it into this system, that is going to go through a validation process that'll go through the library, through the research team. So usually you were saying that went through the research committee before?
Well, what happened through the library did it first, but because in our school those outputs are tied to research workload, we would then have colleagues querying them being rejected as an ERA eligible piece in the category or designation that they'd chosen, and then we would have to determine what sort of workload that was worth at the school level. So it's been quite a cumbersome process, and in the work that we've done over the years trying to simplify the Nitro reporting and visibility sort of the system, I guess, that the whole university uses, we recognise the burden on the library. So part of it is to try and take some of that burden off and understand what we can do more efficiently. So that I'm just interested in whether there's still I know that this has been difficult for some of our library colleagues who don't feel that they have, the peer experience to assess all nitros, nor should they. It's not really appropriate. So just wondering if that's still going to be the case and how we can streamline that. In the absence of ERA as our guide, some of us are sort of waiting to see what this repository will do and how it will function in the void of that. So I'm here digging as hard as I can, what I can find on people's behalf. Thanks.
It's a really good situation to talk about, because maybe Sandy and Kate, you can probably put something together and we can send it to who, Kathy, Sandy, do you think?
Yeah.
No, it's worth asking.
Yeah, really happy to help.
Yeah. And maybe get Gary involved too in that clean.
He's super helpful. Gary and Alison are wonderful. And Sandy, I might send you the positioning paper on this that some colleagues we wrote a couple of years ago, and we've enacted some of it, but we work quite closely with your predecessor in the role. So just to let you know.
Okay. Yeah, that'd be good. Just give me some background.
Terrific. Thanks.
Actually, just on that note, I've just popped the article by Julian Knowles about nitros and creative practice research. It's quite an interesting article. He used to work at Western Sydney years ago, actually, but now he's elsewhere. And but he's got a lot to say about the relationship between being an artist and working in institutions and getting recognition for this work. So it's a good thought piece.
Thanks, Mariella.
That's okay. Thank you all very much too, by the way.
No problem.
Thanks for your patience. I mean, we haven't seen this much longer than you have. So.
Yeah, thanks so much. Yeah, we'll get there. We'll get through it all.
Yeah. Well, I hope we've answered some of the burning questions today, but other ones we'll take on notice and we will try to get back to you.